Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back again. So in today's video, I'm gonna recommend the best Godzilla movies of all time to watch, anywhere between the Showa era all the way to the Monsterverse era. This is also purely based on rewatchability. So starting with number 1, Godzilla 1954. I mean, without this one, the rest of the Godzilla movies just don't matter. This movie is also based off the atomic bombings of Hiroshima. You also have a badass character named Dr. Serizawa who also was ballsy enough to actually save humanity by sacrificing himself and killing Godzilla on the way. This is also the origins of Godzilla, so you might as well just check it out when you can. Number 2, Godzilla Raids Again. It might not be as strong as the first one, but this is also the first film where Godzilla is also fighting another kaiju named Anguirus. And the fight scenes between Godzilla and Anguirus are so brutal and nasty and so bloody, and it's just so satisfying to watch. Godzilla does end up winning the fight because, I mean, he's king of the monsters, so yeah. Number 3, King Kong vs. Godzilla 1962. This movie was popping when it first came out. This is also the first film that got people into debates right away. And I get it, because back then the fight scenes looked all cheesy, but I'm not gonna lie, they're still pretty satisfying. And even though King Kong does win at the end of this film, this is still the most talked about ending of all time. And at one point, people truly believed that there was a Japanese version where Godzilla actually wins, but to be honest, it doesn't exist. Toho did confirm that King Kong actually won the fight. And that's why years down the road we actually get a rematch, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Number 4, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. This film has 4 kaijus: Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. You also have a character that can predict the future of events, and nobody wants to listen to her until the last minute, which I think is really entertaining. And at the end of the day, Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan do end up beating King Ghidorah. He ends up flying away, but everybody else has a good-ass ending. Number 5, Son of Godzilla. I understand that this film might be cheesy, but it's also just kind of cool that you get to see Godzilla be more of a father towards Manila. He teaches Manila how to fight and how to use his atomic breath. I mean, it's a film about people stuck on an island just watching, you know, Godzilla and his son just go at it against a spider and Kamakuras. And yeah, the ending can be emotional depending on your sensitivity, but other than that, I think it's pretty solid. Number 6, Godzilla vs. Megalon. I really love the soundtrack that is used entirely throughout the film. You also have a robot that's named Jet Jaguar, and you also find out he's like the coolest robot in the Godzilla franchise. The characters in this film also have something to do, and you know, it just goes by pretty fast. This is also a 2v2 type of film because you got Jet Jaguar and Godzilla teaming up against Megalon and Gigan. And it's also kind of sad when you do see Godzilla and Jet Jaguar split apart and just go on about their day. Number 7, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 1974. When you're watching this movie, there's a lot of fucked up things going on. You got a female that can see bad things happening, prophecies are coming to life, and worst of all, there's a Godzilla that you end up finding out is actually disguised as a robot and is also controlled by space apes that are from outer space! And Toho made Mechagodzilla cool as hell in this film. He was also pretty brutal as well towards Anguirus, Godzilla, and King Caesar all together. And this film altogether is just enjoyable, it's not boring, and it's also just very memorable. Number 8, The Return of Godzilla. It takes place in 1984, but the vibes of this film really come off as horror. This is the kind of film that lets you know, yeah, we are not here for that childish, cheesy shit no more. This is starting to get real. And the soundtrack of this film sometimes comes off as a little bit eerie or sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. This film also connects back to 1954 pretty well. And as you watch Godzilla fall on that volcano in slow motion, yeah, it's actually pretty sad. Number 9, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah 1991. This is the film that has a rematch between Godzilla and King Ghidorah once again. This is also the first type of film that also have you time travel. And even though Mecha King Ghidorah runs its course for a short period of time, the design for it really is nice. And let's not forget the fact that Godzilla ends up crying in this film as well. And it's all because he has a special connection to a special somebody in this film. Number 10, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Personally, I just think that Space Godzilla is one of the coolest villains ever made to go up against Godzilla. And at one point, Space Godzilla even holds Godzilla's adopted son hostage. I also think that Space Godzilla's powers are also pretty unique as well because his powers are based off of telekinesis. And you also have a cool ass character named Mickey that's kind of like Eleven from Stranger Things. And without her, some of the characters in this film would actually end up being dead. Number 11, Godzilla vs. Destroyer. You get to see burning Godzilla on a nuclear meltdown, and once you get introduced to Destroyer, who's also another good villain that Godzilla ends up fighting, yeah, the way that he starts off in the film is also kind of creepy. And it's scary enough that once this Destroyer has multiple beings, like, yeah, they are actually capable of killing humans. Baby Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla ends up growing up to become Godzilla Jr. He does actually try to put up a good fight against Destroyer, but unfortunately, Destroyer is also the same kaiju that kills him, and that's what pisses off Godzilla, and so in return, the military and Godzilla end up taking him out. The ending is also really sad since unfortunately Godzilla does end up melting, but the ending is also beautiful because we thought that Godzilla Jr. was dead, but since Godzilla sacrificed part of his energy to Godzilla Jr., Godzilla Jr. ends up becoming the new Godzilla of the Heisei era. Number 12, Godzilla 2000. This version of Godzilla's design just hella slot throughout the film. He has purple dorsal fins, orange atomic breath, and a unique war. And this film is also on some sci-fi shit because you get introduced to a kaiju named Orga who's also an alien, and it was scary enough when Orga was trying to eat Godzilla so that he could become a new clone of Godzilla. He did all of that just to die, and the best part about this film is that you think that Godzilla's gonna go back to the ocean, but instead he says psych and just goes ahead and just causes more destruction around Tokyo. Number 13, GMK. It's also refreshing at the same time that Godzilla is the villain of this film. And you have kaijus like Baragon, Mothra, and King Ghidorah that are actually the guardians of the earth, but since Godzilla's just evil as hell, he just ends up killing all of them. And the characters aren't too bad, they're all just pretty engaging. Number 14, Godzilla Final Wars. This movie was the best tribute to Godzilla altogether. The opening scene, the soundtrack, and the opening title sequence as well just makes you feel like the biggest Godzilla fan of all time, just seeing it all go down in one film. Nearly every single kaiju shows back up in this film, and once Godzilla is awake, he just never fails to just whoop everybody's ass along the way. Number 15, Shin Godzilla. This one simply focuses on the government trying to figure out how to handle Godzilla. Godzilla goes through puberty in this film and just ends up becoming a god. This is also the first Toho film to have a Godzilla that's made in full out CGI. His atomic breath is purple. He also has a tail for a head that can also shoot an atomic breath as well, and same thing for his dorsal fins too. And if it didn't stop there, by the time that the military actually got to freeze Godzilla, yeah, he would have actually cloned into another Shin Godzilla and would have just kept the rampage going and also killing more people on the way with all those ugly ass looking humanoids. Number 16, Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This one is purely based on fan service. The director Mike Dougherty is also a huge Godzilla fan himself. He really gave these kaijus a lot of personality in this film that are really distinct from one another. And if you've been keeping up with the MonsterVerse since Kong Skull Island, Godzilla 2014 up until King of the Monsters, then yes, you will enjoy all the tie-ins and Easter eggs throughout the film. And on top of that, it also sets up the events of Godzilla and Kong fighting again for a rematch. And finally, number 17, Godzilla vs. Kong 2021. This is the film that literally brought back both Godzilla and Kong fans together to reunite and also debate at the same time. You also have a brand new version of Mechagodzilla in this film that's also pretty deadly. This was also the kind of film that just made all the fans' dreams just come to life. And I'm talking like better pacing, better CGI fights, better quality, just better everything. You get some background history between Godzilla and Kong, and when you see those opening title sequences, like, oh my god, like it just keeps you hooked. Like it feels like real life just mixed with some fiction shit. I also do like the fact that we do have a defined winner, which in this take was Godzilla since Kong does lose in this one. But it was a better Batman vs Superman at the end when they do end up teaming up against Mechagodzilla and taking him out for good. And now that both Godzilla and Kong have mutual respect, we're gonna see them again here pretty soon next year. And those are the 17 best Godzilla films to watch in your lifetime. I will do another one of these where I talk about the Godzilla movies to avoid watching at all costs. Until then, guys, I will see you guys the next time. Peace.